Well, welcome back to a new season of First in Pod. We have lost Danny Parkins. He has left us for the fertile soil that is Fox Sports 1. But I like what we have here for opening night after this thrilling Chiefs 27-20 win over the Ravens. In the middle, we have Zach Gelb. If you're watching, if you're listening, you know him from Infinity Sports Network in the afternoons. And then all the way to the right, so happy to have a future Hall of Famer, one of the great corners in NFL history. Patrick Peterson is here with us after this crazy game. And usually I would start and give a take off of this, but I defer to you, Pat. What we just watched here, your take on the Chiefs hanging on, surviving that last play to beat the Ravens on opening night.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL never seems to let us down when football season, when we need a banger to kick off the season. And the Ravens in the Kansas City game did not let us down one bit. The Kansas City Chiefs look like the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending world champs that they are. They had an opportunity to explore their new toy, and Xavier Worthy scoring twice tonight, one on the end around. Looked like he almost ran up out of the stadium. He was moving so fast. And then the receiving touchdown that he got late in the game to kind of keep the scoring distance away from the Ravens. And Pacheco, I think he just brings a physicality to that Kansas City offense that we haven't seen in quite some time from the running back position. The Kansas City Chiefs, they found a way to answer each and every time when Baltimore Ravens seemed like they was trying to gain some momentum, and Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs offense just went down there and closed the door each and every time.
Zach?
Yeah, so I think Pat said it perfectly. The weapons are what stands out to me for Kansas City. On the other side, though, when you take a glance at the Baltimore Ravens, this has kind of unfortunately been their MO. They're in these big games. They're in these big games late, and then they can't make the plays at the end. I know likely if he just gets the toe down in bounds and it doesn't hit the line, maybe it's a different story. They go for two and the win, which, I think they were going to do so. But the play prior to that, Zay Flowers is wide open and Lamar couldn't hit him. And even on the likely play 2 plays earlier when he got hurt, I thought they should have just spiked the ball after they made that big play. A lot of time wasted off that clock, and then it really took the legs away from Lamar Jackson if they would have just spiked it and kept some more time out there. So it's the same old. Ravens are really damn good. We know that they have a Super Bowl feel, but they got to start winning these big games, which goes back to even the last few years.
Guys, I feel like, especially in the early parts of the season, that sometimes games are lost more than they're won. And I felt like if you go through this game, there's probably going to be 5 to 10 plays where if you flip it, Baltimore wins instead of a Kansas City win. And that happened in the AFC Championship game last year, where Baltimore, I think, self-inflicted wounds, lost the game, horrible play calling where they didn't run the ball at all, Pat. They only had 6 runs by running backs in that game. Lamar was not using his legs the way that he did in this game, to his credit. They had 3 turnovers in that game. And I don't think the mistakes were as pronounced where there were obvious glaring turnovers. But to Zach's point, Jackson makes a great throw on that last second play, but he missed 2 touchdown passes. He had likely 2 plays before, and he had Flowers wide open. They burned their timeouts. Pat, you're a former defensive player. I mean, it's the second half of the game. What's Harbaugh doing on like the 3rd play of the second half, burning a timeout? Are you so scared of what you have defensively in that situation where early on you're going to use a timeout in that spot? I mean, talk about that for a second. Like, what are we doing in a close game like that, burning timeouts in the second half?
Yeah, I thought that was very uncharacteristic by Jim to burn 2 timeouts on the defensive side of the ball, and the first half on the offensive side of the ball. But like you said, you need those timeouts in the second half, and to see those guys burn those timeouts in the second half, I thought that was very uncharacteristic. And as we saw, it came down to bite them late in the game, where they could have used those timeouts to really draw up a play that they really like to possibly, take the game into overtime or go to the win the ball game.
And
But
the blown
also,
coverage
too,
play.
you
I
made
mean,
it. You made
Worthy,
it.
say what you will about him as a burner
Mhm.
and as a guy that is going to give people problems with his speed, but that was just what happened there. Humphrey thought he was going to have safety help, and then the guy's all by himself. I mean, that it's early in the season, but that just can't happen in a
Yeah,
game like
that
this.
can't happen. Yeah, that can happen before, for sure. They didn't show like the bird's eye view. I couldn't tell, but it looked like Marlon was playing a cover two. It looked like he was playing a cover two, expecting a safety over the top, but it did not look like the safety was over the top. It looked like the safety was playing a zero technique, which is he's guarding someone. Like I said, I couldn't tell on
Yeah.
the full play. I remember Pacheco ended up motioning out from the running back position out in the backfield. So I don't know if that stole Marlon's eyes. I don't know if he got the wrong play, but in that moment, that definitely can't happen, and especially with Marlon being a veteran that he is. Like I said, I don't know if he got the wrong play or his eyes was in the wrong place, but a big play on Kansas City behalf to keep that lead out of reach.
Yeah, Pony and Pat as well. I think we also can't gloss over the fact that if the Ravens had this approach and this attack in the AFC Championship game last year that they had tonight, they would have been in the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
Like it did look different offensively, even though they lost. And Pony, to your point as well, you talked about a few plays go a different way, and then the Ravens win the game. And you see that early on in the season. Let's also not forget, and this is not only early on in the season, this is all throughout the season. I know Pat's a former player, so he's newer to the media world, so we can rip the officials now. The officials were god-awful in this game tonight. How many times the illegal formations early on, it was just so frustrating.
Well, wait a minute. You didn't think those were the right calls, Zach? Or what's your issue with that?
It's ticky-tack, and then you're going to call it on the Ravens, and the Chiefs' right tackles jumping every play, and he doesn't get called for it. It's like, come on. We had the same thing last year with the Chiefs, and the refs let it go for call it on one team, ticky-tack, and the other team, the right tackle, Taylor, could jump a half a second, full second before the ball's even snapped.
But Zach, I will say the NFL does like a new rule
Emphasis,
awareness or whatever, and I guarantee you this was one of those rules that they was like, we're not letting that slide anymore. Guys have to be on the line, because to your point, I forget who the tackle was for the Chiefs last year, but yeah, he was
Taylor.
He was almost in the backfield. I think it was the right tackle, if I'm not mistaken, almost in the backfield every snap. So that was a point of emphasis coming into this season. And since they're gonna, since the head of officials told them that this is a point of emphasis, keep your eyes on this. We want this called every single time. And they made no mistake about it of calling that a legal formation every single time.
But the irony was it was called on the Ravens. It wasn't called on the Chiefs.
On the Chiefs.
So,
and they showed Harbaugh bitching about that on the sidelines at one point late in the first half. I think Kansas City's got to feel great that they play what I would say for them is like a C+ game. And they beat one of the teams that is probably on the short list of contenders to prevent them from having a three-peat. Kelsey caught 3 balls. They could not run the ball to save their lives in this game. I think they averaged 3.6 a carry. Pacheco, I thought, played hard, but never really got going in the run game. I think that Mahomes played a decent game. I mean, he made critical plays, but he had a horrible interception there to Smith where he kind of forced it in there. So he made clutch plays, but I wouldn't say he had. Probably the biggest play he made was that catch he made on that third down, guys.
It would have been
that was huge.
Right? I mean, not only that, but like, even if he doesn't catch it and it's incomplete, think about how much more time Baltimore would have had at that spot. I mean, that was a big time play by him.
This is going to sound crazy, and I get it. It's Mahomes, it's Kelsey, it's Andy Reid. All we do is talk offense, offense, offense. This goes back to last year. The defense in Kansas City has been more consistent than the offense. We saw what happened with Steve Spagnuolo going back to last year and how that defense has performed even tonight at stretches. The defense was going, and the defense did a great job. And the Chiefs
and they lost Snead, Pat. They lost one of the great corners in football.
Yeah. And the offense, it's just, okay, they'll figure it out. But here's the thing. They're jump starting now with Worthy with 2 touchdowns, Rice, who had a big game as well, Pacheco with his aggressive running, and then you have the best quarterback in the game. I hate to say it after one game, and I didn't even pick the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, but they kind of look unbeatable, even when they don't
Pat,
play
did you
their
pick
best.
them? Did you call a three-peat here?
I did. I mean, it's tough. It's tough not to, just because, what those guys were able to, return back on offense and, add into their, offense as well. And you got one of the best play callers, if not the best play caller in the game, Andy Reid, and like Zach said, the best quarterback in today's game. So, only people I see beating them is themselves, and it's they talked about last year that he can't win away from the kingdom. He went on and did that. It's just unfathomed to think about the things that Patrick is able to accomplish throughout his NFL career, and he's only lost 2 playoff games, one in the Super Bowl and one
AFC
in the
Championship
AFC
game.
Championship.
Yeah, both to Brady.
So it's just. I mean, I don't see anyone beating them. I just don't.
Here's the thing: they're not even playing at their best the last 2 years, and they're still better than all the rest. That tells me everything I need to know about Kansas City.
Yep.
Pat, one of the things that's great about having you on here is that you can look at things more critically than we can because you played for so long and did it at such a high level. Can you explain to me, I thought one of the keys in this win for Kansas City, how the hell did they get Rashee Rice matched up on linebackers so many times in this game? Baltimore as a defensive coordinator change, I get that. But that's one of the great explosive receivers in football. And he's out there against linebackers over and over and over again. And it's like an adjustment never got made by Baltimore's defense. What happened there?
Man, that's just what the great Andy Reid does, man. He just finds a way to just continue to move guys around to create mismatches. And I think Rice, for the most part, he was lined up in the slot, motioning here and there. And I believe that's one of the things that Andy Reid do a great job of. He just don't allow the defense to take pictures. And what I mean by take pictures, meaning guys coming out of the huddle and just lining up in their position and the quarterback saying hi. Now we playing a cat and mouse game. We're going to see what type of defense you're in. We're going to see who's running with who, and to put ourselves in the best situation possible. And that's, if you look at it, that's what the Chiefs do each and every Sunday. Travis Kelce, he's probably, now that they have other weapons that can do it, Travis Kelce was the main guy who did that, especially on third downs. Anytime you see Travis moving around, he's trying to ID what defense that they're in. If the pressure's coming from the left side, right side, the safety's rotating, they're playing cover 2. It's a lot of information that they're trying to gather when they're putting those receivers in motion. So Coach Andy Reid is always going to find that mismatch, especially when you give him this much time to game plan.
All right, so the beauty of this podcast is that we don't gloss over anything. We do every team and every game. So we will move on to Friday here, Pat, and get your analysis on this before we let you run. The game in Brazil. Now, you played international games. You never went down to South America. The Eagles gave up a home game in that raucous environment to play this game tomorrow night in Sao Paulo. They're telling the guys, you can't leave your hotel rooms. It's too dangerous there. Eagles players are bitching up a storm about it.
You can't tweet, by the way. Don't forget about that.
Your opinion,
and you can't
Pat,
tweet?
Yeah, they can't tweet. That's right. It's banned down there. More viable Super Bowl contender. Better shot at getting to New Orleans. Philadelphia Eagles or Green Bay Packers? What do you got there?
Man, that's a great question, Pony, because I really, really like the Green Bay Packers. Like I like what I saw from Jordan Love last year. Matt LaFleur always, him and his quarterbacks always, have a good relationship far as him calling the plays that really fits their talent. But far as the team, I got to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Philadelphia Eagles have a better team. I really haven't had the opportunity to look at the Green Bay Packers defense, but just going off the top of my head, I think the Philadelphia Eagles have the better overall team. It's just going to be interesting to see how the head coach and the quarterback relationship pays out, and the defense with Vic Fangio coming over from the Dolphins. So Also added Saquon Barkley as well to take a little pressure off Jalen Hurts and the tush push or whatever they want to call that play. So I think I'm gonna take the Philadelphia Eagles over Green Bay Packers. If I had to pick a team out of the two, would be the last one standing.
But how much is the team chemistry impacted? Because I think you bring up a great point. Sirianni and Hurts, we know that relationship is not great. Sirianni is now basically saying, Kellen Moore, go fix this, and not really going to talk to the quarterback that much. You know, grown men understand that relationship, the locker room. It got ugly down the stretch. So how much does the team chemistry maybe derail the Eagles season, in your opinion?
Man, honestly, I think that's why I said it all depends on that relationship, because I think it can derail a season, especially if guys in the locker room are seeing the tension between the head coach and the quarterback. These are the two, these are the two heads of the football team. You know what I mean? So if they can't see eye to eye, it's going to be a lot of questions in the locker room, like, what's going on? Why coaches and Jay not seeing eye to eye, and I feel like that can get guys' mind off the main goal, and that's trying to prepare and win a football game on Sundays.
Well, I like Philly. I'm going to take them as the team that I think has a better chance. In fact, I predicted them to go to the Super Bowl. I do think at some point Jalen Hurts is going to miss time because of an injury. And Pat, I am predicting that Kenny Pickett is going to come off the bench and win at least one playoff game for Philly. Now, I think Hurts will go back in, but I think that Kenny will give them a little bit of a push when needed in a good situation there with a stable offensive line.
You still on the Pickett payroll, Pony? Just wondering.
Not anymore, as a matter of fact, Zach. I am not now completely joined at the hip with Kenny. We've separated in the last few months. No, look, I think the Eagles are slept on because of the way they collapsed and the way it ended so badly. I still think you put their roster up against San Francisco and Detroit, and they really don't take a backseat to them. I like the moves they made. We'll see if that young secondary can come together. I do trust Fangio. So Mitchell from Toledo, DeJean from Iowa, those guys getting folded in there. I think Jalen Carter is going to make a big jump in his second year and is going to be one of the top-end defensive linemen in football. I think the Jawan Dotson move, very underrated before the season. Now he's in their slot as their third weapon to go with Brown.
How about that move?
Right? I mean, I think that's an under-the-radar move, Pat. Last year, Dotson was targeted in Washington more than McLaurin. He's not a bad player, and now he doesn't have to be the number 2 guy. He's the number 3. You've got Goddard there, too. Barkley behind a better offensive line. Moore's a solid play caller from his days in Dallas. I love them, and I think Dallas is down. I don't think anyone else in that division can really compete, so I think they will pad their record against that division, and I think the playoffs will have to go through the link.
And the last two times the playoffs had to go through the link, they were in the Super Bowl.
And they started 10-1 last year, and people seem to forget that, Zach, because of how badly it ended. Now, are you going to try to sell me on Green Bay? Is that what you're going to do here? You strike me as a Green Bay guy. Gelb, are you?
No, I'm actually I took the Eagles as the number 1 overall seed and actually losing in the NFC Championship game, early 2000s style, to the LA Rams. But if I look at Green Bay, I think Josh Jacobs going to have a monster year. Xavier McKinney.
Did you say the Rams?
Yeah, I have the Rams going to the Super Bowl.
Are you aware of the fact that they lost one of the greatest defensive players in the history of football, Zach?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm told this is now an offensive-driven league all the time with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford and Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. But they drafted 2 guys that played in the same defense last year at Florida State, and Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. So I do kind of think that defense, it's not going to be as dominant without Aaron Donald, but they'll be competent enough to be in the Super Bowl mix and win the Super Bowl.
Pat, it's so cool to have you as a part of this. You're one of the great football players of your generation, and I think you're going to be great at this media stuff. So thanks so much for coming on First and Pod tonight, man.
Anytime, guys.
There you go. Pat Peterson.